All right, listeners, I'm going to paint you a picture here. You're atop of the corporate ladder and you are a top sales performer. You're pulling in a solid six-figure salary. You're selling advertising space to local small business owners, analyzing their profit and loss statements every day. And you realize something's shocking. The local carpet cleaner and junk hauler are quietly making far more money and living a much freer life than you are. That's the moment Fred and Sherrod knew their comfortable corporate existence was a guided cage that they had to escape. They walked away from a Fortune 500 company, started with nothing but a borrowed pickup truck, and today their system generates $1 million a month. That is not a typo there. $1 million a month, an incredible 60% gross profit margin. I'm Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to the Upflip Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses, especially the ones others dismiss as dirty. Fred and Sherrod are here to reveal the exact playbook for building a recession-proof, high-margin service business that anyone can replicate. And they are previously on the YouTube channel, which I had the honor to actually interview them for. So Fred and Sherrod, I am so excited to see you both again. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, man.
Good to be back, my man.
Thank you so much for having us, man.
I'm excited to have you back here in action. I'm going to encourage all the viewers right now to, once this podcast is done, to go check out the YouTube channel because it is generally like one of my favorite interviews we've done. Okay, let's dive into this podcast though specifically. And Fred, I want to start with you. And let's start with your background as a U.S. Army veteran. You're on top of the B2B sales world, slinging sales. Let's talk about when you're analyzing P&L statements. What specific number or like observation convinced you that maybe the corporate ladder isn't what you want?
You hit it on the head. I appreciate you sharing, man. I'm an 8-year U.S. Army veteran, served 4 years active duty Army, and then 4 years in the Florida Army National Guard. So HUA, if you're out there, if you know, you know. And so that said, I kind of cut my teeth in advertising sales as my professional career initially. And like you mentioned, Ryan, part of that gig is going through small business owners and their profit and loss statements in regards to their marketing efforts, right? Understanding where they've spent their dollars, what's been their wins, what's been their losses. And like you mentioned also, I also discovered that the local franchise business, whether it be the carpet cleaner, the landscape guy, the roofer, were a lot more lucrative than I had assumed. And like you also mentioned, I started to plan my great escape out of corporate America. What that looked like for me was like a lot of your listeners, I kicked the tires on ideals of joining a franchise, right? All the way to starting my own business, looked at some things that were a little bit more intense in terms of owner operation. And I even looked at some things that were semi-absentees, things that I could do while I still kept a professional career. But ultimately, none of the people that I was trying to emulate were living their vision part-time. They all were at this in terms of building out their future all in. And so that's what I looked to do. I took a big leap of faith in terms of starting the business, making sure we did kind of crawl, walk, ran before we jumped all the way out in terms of making sure that we understood our business systems to some degree. But even with trying to take that due diligence, life still lifing. And we still had to understand some hard lessons in regards to what was the viability of the offerings of the services that we were offering at that time, and how did we need to pivot to make sure that we were meeting the needs of the market and that we could have a successful business to grow. That said, it led me to having these types of conversations with Sherrod in regards to what my future looked like in terms of owning a business. And he had a trash can pop up at his doorstep that kind of changed our life. And we went to take that trash can or the concept thereof, and we put about 20,000 of those trash cans across 20,000 doorsteps across the nation. So I'll kick it off to Sherrod. He'll tell how that trash can kind of morphed into the nation's only junk removal app and how we're changing the landscape again in regards to that infray and our software.
Important part of Sherrod's story here. He has a great quote. If you're willing to do the things that people are not willing to do, you're going to have the opportunity to reap the rewards that a lot of people are not. That's a great takeaway. Talk to us, Sherrod, about that quote and like how that really has transitioned to like 60% margins doing $1 million a month.
Absolutely. It was something that I learned at a very young age. I was actually 9 years old. I used to go to the frozen lemonade stand around the corner from my house. And as a way to pay for the lemonade, I ended up getting my first job. I negotiated the first job cleaning the parking lot. So I was the trash guy. I was VP in charge of sanitation. And it meant the world to me. And the owner mentored me, and he was just look at how passionate I was. I love to make a difference with my hands. And he was like, something about you, never lose that, Sherrod. Never lose that. And he's just like, you're different. And not only was I benefiting from being able to pay for the lemonade and treat my friends, but it was that sense of purpose that stuck with me. And when I looked to identify opportunities later on in my life, like something that always stayed with me in terms of like go the extra mile, right? Whether I was waiting tables and I'm like, let's make these people feel like, that they've never felt before, right? I'm willing to go and give them an experience that they've never had before. And you know what? They might come back and choose me next time. And that's kind of that mindset. And so when I saw that trash can at the doorstep, I'm like, well, how many people would dedicate their time to come night after night to solve that problem for somebody with their trash? And like that same feeling when I was 9 years old came right back to me and I knew I was in the right place.
Yeah. So take us to that exact moment here. There's a trash can outside your door. Like, what are like the bells and whistles going off in your head of like, hey, this is an opportunity here? Because this is really like ground zero of like how you guys started. So talk to us specifically about that moment and what listeners should know about like when identifying opportunity. I want to make it actual for them as well.
Really good, really good. I think it needs to solve a problem, right? And in my case, I had a problem and I would deal with the problem every day with my trash. I lived at one side of the property and I would have to transport my everyday trash to the compactor, which was the equivalent of about 2 football fields away. So logically, I would put the trash on my car. Sometimes I would forget the trash. Sometimes it would fall off, but it was a chore, right? And then it was just like, there's got to be a better way. And that trash can was that solution that I'm like, that can help me, but it can help a lot of people that may have this problem. And then that's where the light bulb went off. And so what I would say is that if you're really looking to, be effective, look to effectively solve a problem.
I like it. So when was the moment that you guys met and like thought about like this business idea? Sherrod, did you go to Fred and Fred was like, heck yeah, let's do this? Or is Fred like, heck no, I'm not going to do this? Like talks about like the founding partnership of this and like taking us from 0 to like 1 of like, what did you guys first do and was it successful?
Absolutely, man. Fred was the guy to see. He was the mayor. I call him the mayor of the market. He's a hometown guy. But the year I met Fred, he won the Man of the Year award for his fraternity organization. So he's super active in the community, throwing parties, hosting events. And so I actually went to him to help me with my logo for the company, Tampa Bay Trash. I was just thinking, man, Tampa, I'm going to kill it. And Fred helped me to think a lot bigger than Tampa Bay Trash. But the funny thing is, we were already making our employer millions of dollars, right? We're literally signing contracts, right? And making them money. And I said, listen, I'm going to do the same thing, Fred, with this business. Like, I don't need to be the CEO or the president, right? Put account executive on my card. I'm going to get to it. And Fred was just like, oh, that's brilliant. He liked the humble approach. He was just like, let's do it. Like, it's the same thing that we do. But now it's a win, and a win because we understood how not only were we helping the residents, but we're helping the property, right? Compete and make money. And so he was in right there. He was just like, what do I got to do to get in? And then that's when the partnership really began.
Fred, like, what was that conviction that like you had to be in? Like, how did you know like it was going to be like what it is today? Like, talk to us about that.
No, Sherrod touched on a good portion of it, right? I clearly saw the problem solving. It brought to the nature of our tagline of our main corp, which is Accelerated Waste Solutions. Our tagline is problem solve. And so that said, you saw the solutions and what the service offered. But even beyond that, it had some synergies with what we already did in terms of our current skill set. We sold contracts for that B2B advertising. And those contracts actually created recurring revenue, not for us, but for our employer. So although we were ingratiated, we had good commissions, we knew we were signing contracts at the time that were earning our employer millions of dollars in recurring revenue. And it was a piece of the process that we didn't have any control over and we didn't have any access to. And so to now think that we could start our own business, put up our own shingle, and now have that type of monetization take place, not just have a one-time sale and that's it and we get a commission, but know that we could offer a service, a tangible service that we could get a recurring invoice on or recurring earnings on and build a platform of business that we could stand behind. And so that's what really excited me. It was something that, one, I already had a skill set in terms of being able to compel people for those contracts. But two, I could start to reap the benefit of the back end of those contracts in terms of that repeat business. So that's what was most compelling. And honestly, what was the biggest driver. And it's still a big driver for a lot of our franchisees today in terms of how we operate the business. That's still a big business system for us, still a big foundational piece of revenue that a franchisee can take hold of when they open up a junk shot or doorstep details business.
Are you ready to launch, grow, and scale a business? Inside the Upflip Academy, you'll get a complete roadmap to shortcut your success with 25 plus step-by-step programs taught by active business owners, not gurus, who share their step-by-step blueprints. Plus, ongoing live workshops, skills training, a business idea database, and community to share resources and celebrate your wins. Click the link in the description below to join the Upflip Academy today and start surrounding yourself with the people and tools that can change everything for your business.
Listeners, stay tuned because we're going to talk like really in depth here about B2B and like why you guys go after B2B. But like, not to spoil it, but like, do you guys talk to us? Are you guys going after B2C, B2B? Did you do that from like day one? And like, why did you guys decide to go B2B or B2C? I kind of already gave the hint away, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, those contracts that I mentioned are signed with multifamily asset management companies or apartment complex property management companies. And essentially, that's a B2B, right? And that felt right within our wheelhouse. What we discovered is once we started to sign those contracts, and honestly, to be transparent, that didn't happen right away. Like a lot of businesses, we still had a lot of things to figure out. And to just be short, we failed at it initially miserably. It actually what was one of the things that caused our pivot in terms of making sure that we could continue to earn dollars while we figured out this contractual piece of our business. And it's what opened the door up for junk removal because we were already targeting that B2B client in the way of multifamily. We noticed that the move-ins and the move-outs of those apartment complexes cause bulk items to need removal on a consistent basis. And since at the time our name was fairly ubiquitous, we were called Tampa Bay Trash at the time. And so we started to encompass all things trash. Believe it or not, we used to do dumpster rooms, but we don't anymore. But that said, we started to encompass all things trash, and we gravitated very hard toward the B2B because we understood that unlike residential, we love cleaning out people's garages. I love breaking down the trampoline in the backyard. As far as junk removal at people's homes go, what we realized is that in that method, we were actually renting a customer. We were paying for marketing that would get us access to a customer for a given event for one task. And we may not see a single family homeowner until they have that life event again, right? Until they move again, until there's a wedding, until they downsize, etc. But with the apartment complex, the offshoot of that bulk furniture created repeat business that required us week after week, month after month. And instead of renting a customer, now we were owning a customer. And that's essentially the business that I wanted to be in. And that's the evolution that took us to eventually be able to sign a valet trash contract. So we eventually got that off the ground. But it opened our eyes to the availability and the marketability of junk removal and what was really left to be able to exploit in that business.
Yeah, it really sounds like the takeaway there for listeners should be like, if you can, go after like B2B because that's where like the bigger contracts are. And if you're able to actually scale with like recurring revenue, that sounds like why someone would choose B2B over B2C. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
You're right on the money.
That we also noticed that there was different revenue streams in that same client, right? They would have, right? So they would lead maybe more frequently the items that are being left behind, but then they would have items in the unit, right? Where it would take a little longer, a little intensive. We noticed that maybe every few months they might need a storage facility area cleaned out of the maintenance shop. We noticed that every year or so, every couple of years, they might be getting new toilets or new appliances and things of that nature. So it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. And once we understand their need, they can kind of dictate where we can fit in to solve that need.
Let's go into something that you guys have trademark, and that is bigger trucks, better pricing. Break down that math for like a listener. How does like, an 18.67 cubic yard truck in volume, whatever, allow 60% like gross margin? Break that down for us. Would love to hear that.
So yeah, not all junk trucks were created equal, right? And so it comes down to the mathematical equation. We touched a little bit about it in the video, but I'll give it to you. Length times width times height divided by 27. Want to understand a cubic yard, right? So some people reference a cubic yard like a washing machine. So it comes down to how many washing machines or how many cubic yards can your truck fit, right? And so once we can understand that, we can understand the full load price, right? We can kind of divide that. We can divide that by the cubic yards. We can understand the price per cubic yard. So that's a good indicator right there. And essentially, what we're saying is we come out and intentionally provide the most affordable price per cubic yard. And that's how you win. And so it does take a lot of homework. You have to study your competition, understand what you can and can't do, right? And do your research. And then once you have that information, it's all about that value proposition, which is the bigger trucks, better pricing. So that's our competitive advantage when we go into a marketplace. We're able to save the customers money. And we do have to work harder. It's not a given, right? Because at the end of the day, if we're matching or beating a competition's price point, right, we have to work for it to be profitable What it does, though, it leaves us another quarter of a truck, if you will, to be able to offset that discounted price, right? To go ahead and be whole.
And that's what I love about your guys' story is like the transparency when it comes to pricing. The way that you guys do this is speaking of like innovation here and solving a common industry trend is a lot of like baiting and switching happens in like the trash valet, whatever, junk removal business. Let's talk about transparency. How do you guys have that technical solution to solve the transparency? And what should listeners know about solving common pain points with like technology? Talk to us about that.
I think it's everything as we move forward in the future. We actually have a patent around the process of being able to take a photo or video of any trash or material for the advent of disposal or transportation. And although that sounds fancy, ultimately we utilize technology to be able to give a great insight about our work fulfillment, our proof of work. And we do that through reporting. Both sides of our business, from the junk shot app side of our business, offers before and after photographs so that our customers have clear understanding. We, like Sherrod mentioned, we charge them based on volume that goes in the back of the truck. So it's imperative that we give clarity about the amount of material that was taking place up because we charge them based on that aspect. And it's extremely unique in our industry to have this level of reporting and this level of insight into our services. Most of our competitors actually hide this process to be able to gouge people in terms of their pricing because they don't have understanding of what was removed. If you don't know that I removed this amount of material, I can pretty much tell you it cost anything to remove it. And we don't operate that way. With us, there comes a built-in trust that you can not only see, but you can also stand behind in terms of your team and your reporting. And so it's a really, really key piece to both sides of our business. It's honestly how we look to scale our franchisees. It's how they get inside of a marketplace and can have maximum confidence that they're going to stand above and beyond any competitor in the marketplace because they offer that initial transparency.
I'm curious, like the operational like leverage this like gives you for like your franchisees. Talk to us a little bit more about that and like why having that leverage and that differentiator is like so important. Obviously, like everyone's gonna be like, well, duh, like you need to differentiate from your competitors, but like why like does it like actually like matter, especially just from an operational perspective, being able to like, quickly click and a few clicks away, they have a price.
Sure. Success leaves clues, right? And this allows us to leave a breadcrumb or a trail of breadcrumbs, right? From the inception of the need to the actual completion. And we can go back and we can kind of study and that helps us to become subject matter experts in terms of what we're removing, how much space it may take up in the truck, where we're going to dispose of it or transport it. It also allows us to be intentional about the assets that we send out for a job, whether it's multiple trucks or one truck or one guy. We have that flexibility. Oftentimes we can route and plan where we're going before or after the job, right? Then also we can provide a trust factor with the customers, with them understanding that we're doing the job the right way. But even that's not enough, right? It wasn't enough. We didn't just rest on our laurels in terms of that. We wanted to be intentional about rewarding our customers for utilizing our service, especially if they're able to use our app and our technology to be able to help us make solid operational decisions. And so we implemented a loyalty rewards program. We're one of the first in home services or service industry to do so, where our customers and clients get points for using the Junk Shot app. Those points, they link right into a e-commerce, like you're talking Starbucks, we're talking Home Depot, and so on and so forth. They can get gift cards for their loyalty. And so it's a great way that we say thank you for trusting us, for choosing us, partnering with us. At the same time, we're also saying thank you for helping us be efficient, helping us be transparent, and helping us be a great partner for you.
Trash parent. That's so good. I've heard that like a few times from your team. Obviously, you guys have like built this out like incredibly well. For advice for someone that's like just getting started, of course, go franchise from your guys' team. But besides that, if someone is just like getting started, what are like 3 things that they need to do right early on to like better enhance their chances of success? I'd love to hear that, especially with the experience you guys have now.
Like if I was starting any business, honestly, it really wouldn't matter the business. I've been a steward of relationships. Probably one of my biggest Achilles heels is honestly us not getting started and building connections. When we first got started, we were kind of like a lot of people chasing the dollar, right? If you open up a hot dog stand, your first thought process is to boil the hot dogs and put up a open for a business sign. When really you might benefit from just going to visit the local church or the local Boy Scouts to understand, hey, how many hot dogs do they use? And when do they need your services? And that sort of thing. And that's honestly where I would tell people that they need to start in business. You don't always need to rush. And if you're selling cupcakes, make the cupcakes. You know you can make cupcakes. You got to understand, hey, is there a local church? Is there a local chamber? Do I go to see the local chamber to understand the local church that needs me? Because the local church is a member of the local chamber. And that's a mission of relationships. And I promise you, whenever I talk to a local business owner, I tell them, and then like I said, I'm agnostic about the business, join at a minimum your local chamber. You do even better if you can get industry specific about the associations and things that you want to get involved in, i.e., like I say, you're selling food, you want to be a part of the restaurant guild, etc. But that said, building those relationships initially is a big box to check and can point you in the right direction so that you don't spin your wheels in places that you don't need to. Second is be mindful of the things that you're strong in, right? We all have strong suits, and be also mindful of the things that you're going to need other resources to help you with. Hey, if you're not great at sales, understand the resources in your market to take on different classes in persuasion, different classes in speech, different classes in sales. If you're not technology driven, right? There's a host of different resources from in your community to online to understand how you engage with AI, ChatGPT and the like. But that said, understand where you're going to have your best wins at in terms of your skill sets and start to think of the resources that you're going to need to offset your challenges, things that you might need help with.
Count the cost, understand your expenses, understand your profit, understand the time that needs to be committed, understand what's going to cost you, whether that's time, whether that's money. That's how you should understand where you are in business and how to scale that. Once you're happy with the cost, what happens if you put a 10x in front of that?
All right, last question here before we get into Fan Blitz. What I love about you guys is like there's a conviction here because you guys have turned down like a 5 million 10x multiple offer because you knew the business was like just getting started. I mean, $5 million is not a small amount by any means here. Where does that conviction come from and what can entrepreneurs learn from that? I'd love to hear from both of you on this one before we dive into Fan Blitz.
Have your vision, know your why. Again, if it starts with counting the cost, you understand where you can take it, be firm on that, right? And don't stop until you get where you need to go. And so I think it really starts with having a vision, right? And if your vision is 5 million, stops at 5 million, you're good. It's 50 million, you better keep going. It's 500 million, you better keep going. That's kind of where it stops. She got that.
Nah, I share sentiment, man. We understood exactly what we were up to. And honestly, in Sherrod, we, like you say, we made millions before. And although we still have a ways to go in terms of our earnings potential, our next journey isn't all going to be about us becoming the next Daddy Warbucks. It really is going to be about taking this business system and helping other people fulfill their dreams of business ownership. And that's what's driving us. That's what's positioning us. There's a light at the end of that tunnel. There's a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow too. So it isn't a thankless task, but it is one that drives us every day and that we take extremely seriously. And it too was in the back of our mind. We had seen the likes of mentors like Brian Scudamore, Nick and Omar here with College Hunts Hall and Jump in our markets, but competitors all across our space that have done great things that honestly, we not only wanted to come up the board with, but we honestly look to surpass. We look to beat them. So that said, those drivers are always pushing in the back of our mind, and we're always looking to take our franchisees to that next level with that in mind.
It's really good. You guys have taken this podcast to the next level, so I appreciate you so far. This has been really, really good. We're going to dive into our Fan Blitz questions. And listeners, if you want to join in on this conversation for future conversations, write to us at podcast@upflip.com. Send us an email on questions you want to hear throughout our episodes. But Fred, Sherrod, ready for our last 5 questions here?
Let's go.
Number 1, what is the weirdest or most unexpected item you've ever been asked to haul away?
I remember this apartment in Dallas that was filled with kitty litter, like buckets of kitty litter. And so my team had the white Tyvek suits on, and by the time the job was done, the suits were brown. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But the neighbors, man, they were so thankful that we helped them out because they had the whole thing. It was tough. It was a kitty litter quarter.
Fred, we'll give you number 2 here. What tool or piece of equipment is absolutely essential that most new haulers overlook?
Man, what do most haulers overlook? I'd say a dolly. I think a dolly is a nice hidden gem that a lot of people discount in the way of junk removal. And our teams definitely squawk about it when the tire's flat or they forget to put it on the truck. I see them in the mornings or hear about them when they're talking through it in the yard. But I'd say a dolly is a nice key piece to make sure you got in the junk removal industry.
That's good. Number 3, Sherrod, back to you. What is one job you would never take again and why? Is it the cat litter one? I don't know. But what is one job you would never take again and why?
Man, that cat litter has to take the cake, man. Anything with liquids though. We stopped with the liquids. Like anything with liquids, it's just not meant for it. You know what I mean? So that's one mistake you make one time, you're like, never again. And so we had to stop that early on.
That's good. What is the fastest you and your team has ever cleared out a full truckload?
We've done truckloads in like 20 minutes, man. If it's like big, bulky appliances and we get into that muscle memory, that rhythm, I've seen the guys do truckloads in 20 minutes, believe it or not.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. All right, last fan blitz question for both of you. What is one simple tip that would save beginners hours on their first week in junk hauling?
Having the right tool is definitely big time. I'll tell you that. Definitely like the dolly is definitely necessary. So Fred hit that. The scoop shovel goes hard, and you also need like a rolling trash can because if you get a job where you have a distance, you don't have the right tools. Not only you looking unprofessional, like you're looking crazy, but it's going to have you out there in the weeds for hours, and that can happen if you don't have the right tools. So you just got to get the right tools. Make that investment early on. Often we're talking wheelbarrow, dollies, rolling trash can, scoop shovel. It's a must have.
And then I would just add, first week, you're probably prospecting, right? You're probably out trying to build a book of business and you need to be organized about that effort. So do not leave your humble abode until you have routed out your day. Route out your day, be purposeful about it. No matter the industry, make sure you put a placement and target those accordingly. But routing, I would tell you to save yourself some time your first week. Make sure you got a plan in terms of who you're soliciting.
Really good stuff there from both of you. Guys, this has been great. I have been able to spend a lot of time with you guys with YouTube and now the podcast. So thank you both for hopping on this. You guys have been so good. If someone was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn more about them, where can they connect with you? And please plug your upcoming podcast as well that you guys have coming out.
Yeah. You can always find us at junkshatapp.com. That's junkshatapp.com. If you're curious about junk removal or franchising, or you just want to see our pretty mugs, go to junkshatapp.com. But I would tell the world to get ready for Work Order Nation. The Work Order Nation podcast is coming to you. What is Work Order Nation podcast? It is a podcast specifically built to understand property managers' day in the life. We're the podcast for property managers who care. And like I shared with you before, our primary client is multifamily apartment industry professionals. And we want to give them a platform that not only understand their challenges, but also to understand their professional successes. And we're going to get behind the curtain, understand the day in the life. If you imagine them managing the lifestyles of hundreds of people in one place, what that looks like, our property manager clients have a lot to say. So the Work Order Nation podcast is going to be the platform for them to let that world know all the things that they have successes with. But we're really excited about it. It's going to be on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Look for us on all major platforms. But Work Order Nation is coming to a podcast near you.
This was an energizing conversation with Fred and Sherrod. I'm going to encourage everyone again to go check out the YouTube video that we did with them. It was a really fun episode and they are two high energy guys. So you guys will love that episode. Let's take our 3 takeaways. Number 1, B2B contracts are everything in this business. If you guys are going to scale, get reoccurring revenue, you have to go after B2B contracts. Number 2, be mindful what you're strong in, especially as you're just getting started. You have to know what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you need to hire, what you don't need to hire. It's a really good tip for beginners. And then number 3, opportunity starts with a problem. What's a problem that you're facing in your everyday life? Even a simple problem, a large problem, other people are probably experiencing that same problem. So go build a business based off of that. Really good episode here with Fred and Sherrod. Go check out the YouTube channel. If you guys are enjoying this podcast, give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast. Helps us get more amazing entrepreneurs onto this show like Fred and Sherrod. I'll see y'all next Monday. I love it. Fred, Sherrod, great to see you both again. Thank you so much for the time, and everyone go check that out.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.